Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Bufnagle the podcast, where we explore entertaining and enlightening discussions of the adventure of life and all things good. From science and technology to history and philosophy to leadership and success. We hope to give you a better understanding of the world and skills for everyone to pursue their own adventure.
Hi, everybody, and welcome back to Bufnagle the podcast, where we talk about all things good and the pursuit of the adventure of life. I'm Rafe, and I'm going solo this week. Harry's out on duty, and I'm doing the duty for the Buff podcast, so that you guys can get the content you expect and deserve. Maybe it's not quite what you deserve, but well, your mother probably says that you could do better, but we appreciate the fact that you are here. So we appreciate all of our listeners, and it's good to have you back again. Remember, tell a friend to listen, and you will get a free episode. Because of you, we are a global top 10% podcast, and that is a wonderful thing. Remember to hit that little smiley star button or the like button, or give us like a bunch of really like a lot of stars in a review. That helps us quite a bit. And if you'd like to write a nice review, it says wonderful things about us using actual words, we would appreciate that too. So that'd be a great thing. Like I said, remember to tell a friend to listen, and you will get a free episode. You can send us a note at bufnagle@bufnagle.com, and we will take that information to heart. How about that? So today's episode is, like I said, I'm going solo, and I'm going to talk about a poem. A poem, a movie, a story, a chivalric tale is what I'm going to talk about. I'm talking about Gawain and the Green Knight, a 14th century medieval Arthurian legend. And this is the story of Sir Gawain, Gawain, and his battle with the Green Knight, and like all great legends and myths, everything in the story is symbolism, and that's where the fun begins. I wish in my grade school and middle school and high school days that they would have spent more time telling us that every good story is actually two stories. There's the story that's the story, and then there's the story behind the story, which is the one you get to look for and you get to discuss. So we're going to approach this medieval tale through the 2021 rendering of the story in movie form. It is about a little over 2 hours long. It is available on, I've watched it on the Amazon Prime thing. I'm sure it's available through other services, but I got it for $4. And I've watched it twice now, plus the extra stuff I've done it for the reviews. So, and it's a tale in medieval England, back in the day, King Arthur time. So there's people talk with accents, and because it's a modern movie, people tend to whisper, and things are very quiet. So I'm a big fan of turning on the subtitles. And I also have, we have through this magic audio system there's a voice enhancer option. And I've noticed that when I watch it on my computer, it is substantially harder to hear the audio than it is when I listen to it through our TV theater system. That's kind of a grand word for what we have, but that system does have the voice optimizer thing, and it makes it possible to hear better. And like I said, I turn the subtitles on. It just makes it a lot easier to hear stuff. And I guess I'd recommend that for anybody, regardless of your age. Certainly in the modern day, where they like to put things in whispers, and that's supposed to be better sound. I find it mind-boggling. Anyway, that's the movie. It is a 2021 movie starring Dev Patel, Dev Patel maybe. He is Sir Gawain. He apparently is the only Indian Englishman who can act, because he's in all the movies, and we loved him in the Beatles story Yesterday, and we like him here in Gawain and the Green Knight. The other major character is Alicia Vikander. She's a Swedish actress who plays two parts. She plays Basically, Gawain's love interest as both she plays a commoner, a common woman, maybe she might even be a prostitute. I'm not exactly sure, but she also plays the lady that we will come to later. She's a noble woman, both of them. She's the lady in the blue dress, maybe the devil with the blue dress on, but she is the lady in the blue dress in the green castle, and we will meet here in a little bit. Now, I read this poem. It's a like I said, it's a medieval poem, and if you want to read the original, well, you have to go to somewhere in England or Scotland, wherever it is, and you have to look at those pages behind glass. But there are renderings online in the original Middle English, which are like nearly impossible to read. The version I have is by Simon Armitage, and I can't really compare it to others because this is the only version I have. Although I did, when we moved, found a version in my wife's books. She apparently read this in high school or college, but I haven't compared them side by side. But in the Armitage version, on the facing pages, we have line by line, we have the Middle English version on the left, and we have Armitage's English translation colored by the English language flavors that exist today. We find that on the right side. And I found that trying to read or even just pronounce the Middle English version is essentially impossible for me. But I did find it easier if I dropped in kind of a guttural, made up Sean Connery accent, pushing sounds to the back of the throat and fewer on the tip of the tongue. And I'm not sure if that's the right thing to do, but it sounds fun to me. And I find it easier to read that way. And actually, I tried to read that out loud. I found it easier to read that out loud than it was to read silently. And I don't really know why it is. And then maybe that tells me that this kind of story should be read to each other. And I have not convinced my wife to do that with me yet on these kinds of stories. But this book itself is 200 pages. There's some preface stuff at the beginning, which is really, really good. I suggest you read that. There's introduction to the story. There's introduction on how to on Middle English. And there's a couple of things at the end, some blank pages to make printing easier, I guess, and some notes about the translator and the original author that nobody knows who the author is. Okay, so this is the poem, and I read this back in 2019, something like that. I had heard about it, and I decided I was going to read it. And then I found out in 2021, it was coming to the big screen. And I wanted to see it there. The trailer is very fun. And the soundtrack is on Amazon Prime. And the movie's on there too as well. And so that means that the other week when we were on a big trip, I listened to the soundtrack, much to my wife's chagrin on that thing. So what is the story? Okay, so Gawain is certainly in the context. Okay, so I'm going to tell you basically what's in the movie, and then we'll do some compare and contrast to what's in the book, and then we'll go through what the lessons are. So if you've seen the movie, then great. Now, if you haven't seen the movie and you want to see it, you could hit stop now, and then you could come back, or you can listen to this and then watch the movie and then come back. Whatever you want to do, what do they say? You do you. So Gawain he's a young man, and he's a slacker. I don't know what else to say about it. We might call him a ne'er-do-well. He has no virtue. Okay, the film opens with it's a very subtle scene, but there's a calamity happening. Buildings on fire, and you see the fires break out. If you're careful when you're watching, you see the fire break out, and then you see a man come running into the scene with his wife, and he puts his wife on the horse, and the lady rides away, and he picks up, I don't know, something, a pitchfork or an axe or something to go out fight the fire. He goes, steps up with that, and then the camera zooms back, and you see that our friend Dev Patel, who is Gawain, he's just sleeping. He's sleeping in. He's sleeping in quite frankly, at the brothel, and so this is a man that is not. He doesn't have any good in him. He's not really bad, but he doesn't have any good in him, and he's sleeping in the brothel. So he's not evil or mean, but he's just not good. And he has this girlfriend. I guess she is a girlfriend, but she is a commoner. Okay, she's the character played by Alicia Vikander, and she's at the brothel too. Now I don't know if she's actually an employee at the brothel or if she just knows to find him there. That's not clear to me. But the comely lass played by Miss Vikander is named Essel, Essel. So it becomes very apparent that he is using her, and she really wants to be his lady, as she says, but he's loath to commit to her, as he, being the nephew of the king, he fears losing his station. So his mother is the king's sister, and his mother is, we find out early in the movie, his mother is actually a witch, and she is related to some other witches in the Arthurian legend if you go to the book version. But in the movie version, we just have the king, and we have the king's sister, who is Gawain's mother. And we see Gawain doesn't really want to lose his station. Okay, so after he's at the brothel sleeping off, it's Christmas morning, so his girlfriend's going to church, and he figures he'd go to church too. And he's riding through the crowd of peasants making their way to Christmas Mass, and all the peasants are walking, and that's really a scene to demonstrate his position relative to her. She's a commoner, and she kind of scoffs at him, but she thinks it's kind of funny that he's riding and she's walking, but then it bothers her too. And he actually does a nice thing, and he gives her a ride, but that's like the minimum, man. I mean, you got to do better than just giving her a ride. So he reluctantly gives her a ride on the horse, and it's probably only because it's Christmas Day, and he feels he owes her probably from the night before and all the nights before that. So after Mass takes place, his mother kind of chastises him for being out all night. He says he was at Mass all night, and we all know that's false. So they go to a dinner at the round table, and Gawain is asked by the king, his uncle, the king, to come sit with the king and queen because their son is out, fighting the bad guys, whatever knights do. And the king says, please come sit with us, but tell us, I don't even really know you. You're my nephew, and I don't know you. Tell us your story. And the issue is Gawain has no story. And he has no story because he's a slacker. Okay, all the other knights have stories. Gawain has no story because he's a slacker. Okay, so he's encouraged to do something, and the queen kind of throws him a bone, and she says, "Well, you don't have a story. You don't have one yet. You don't have one yet. You will make yourself a story." So and in the meantime, his mother is a witch, and she is conjuring with her witch friends. She conjures up the Green Knight. She conjures him up, and because she doesn't like Gawain's actions, and she's going to step in and she's going to make him man up. That's her plan. And the king then asks other knights for their stories, and boom, the door opens from the conjured knight, and in rides the Green Knight. And this is one of the great characters of movies. He looks like Groot from whatever, Guardians of the Galaxy. Not the cute little baby Groot, but the big Groot, and not quite as nice as Big Groot. He's green, okay, and everything about him is green. And in the poem, they talk a lot about his greenness, what it means, and how he's just covered in green. And apparently that's a medieval symbol for evil. And so it's pretty obvious that this guy seems like a pretty bad guy. And it's very loud, and it's very scary. The horse makes a lot of noise, and everything in the room is silent, and all you hear is the creaking wood of this. This guy's like made of wood, and he's got like vines growing out of him. And it's really spooky, scary stuff. But he rides his horse right into the dining hall. It's really great stuff. And he makes a challenge to the king, and he does it in the form of a story, or of a little letter. Actually, it's the letter written by the queen, or not the queen, written by the witch. And it somehow appears in the Green Knight's hand because she conjured him up. And in the story, the note is read, and it says, "O greatest of kings, indulge me in this friendly Christmas game. Let whichever of your knights is boldest of blood and wildest of heart step forth, take up arms, and try with honor to land a blow against me. Whomsoever nicks me shall lay claim to this my arm," which is a big axe that he has. "Its glory and riches shall be thine, but the champ must bind himself to this. Should he land a blow, then 1 year and Yuletide hence, he must seek me out yonder to the green chapel 6 nights to the north. He shall find me there, bend the knee, and let me strike him in return. Be it a scratch on the cheek or a cut on the throat, I will return what was given to me, and then in trust and friendship we shall part. Who then is willing to engage with me? So whatever you do to him, he's going to do to you. So if you can land a blow, you just got to promise that a year later he's going to come and give you back in a year. What do they say? Then in 1 year and Yuletide hence. So next Christmas you got to show up and we'll trade places. So Gawain decides he's going to step up. Okay, and so he does, and the king gives him the sword, which is probably Excalibur, right? It's probably King Arthur. And he gives him the sword, and the Green Knight just concedes. He just stands there, puts his armor down, and lays his head to the side, and essentially encourages him to chop off his head. Gawain comes up, chops off his head, and the head falls off, and the body falls over, and everybody's like, "Well, good job, Gawain." And then the body gets up, and it picks up the head, and he says, "I'll see you next year," and he rides off. And now Gawain is kind of stuck with the idea that in a year he's going to have to go up there and do that. So he's now a hero. He has a story. Everybody's applauding him. They're all excited about that. And throughout the next year, he is toasted at different tables at supper. There are stories told about him. There's a little puppet show that kind of goes on in kind of this medieval fashion about Gawain slaying the Green Knight. Slaying is probably not the right term. He just beheaded him. But the year passes, and you can see his glory fading as time goes on. He's realizing that he's getting all this credit without having really done anything. All he did was chop the guy's head off when his head was presented. So some people start mocking him a little bit. His meeting with the Green Knight is looming. The snow starts to fall, and he realizes I'm going to have to go. So meanwhile, his mom and the coven, they're making this. I'm going to call it a magic sash. I think they call it a girdle in the book. And this is a subtle difference between the poem and the movie. But in the movie, his mom makes him this magic sash, this girdle, and it has magic infused in it. And as long as he wears it around his waist, no one can harm him. So that's where he is. He's wondering if he needs to go. He has conversations with the king. The king says, "Have you thought what you will do when Christmas comes?" Gawain says, "I thought it was just a game." And the king says, "Perhaps, but it's not complete." Gawain replies, "You truly believe he's sitting in a chapel, counting the hours, whiling away the year, waiting for me to come?" The king says, "I do not know. You will tell me. You must seek him out." Gawain says, "And if death awaits me?" The king replies, "Oh, I do not know of any man who has not marched up to greet death before his time." So the king is saying, you got to do it, man. This is on you now. You made a deal. That was the deal. You got to follow through. You have duty. And I guess that's the thing that I've discovered in doing this podcast for the last couple of years is there is within me this, I guess I'm going to call it sense of duty. That duty is a big thing for me. And it might be that's because I'm from a certain age, but there it is. There's duty to be done, and I may or may not follow through as I should, but I know that's an ideal to which I should aspire. And here it is. This is duty is calling Gawain here at this point. So there's some symbolism that's always floating around in here. And one thing that you can see all the time for the king, it's on the floor of the round table. It's on a little medallion on his neck. Is the pentangle. It's not a pentagram. It's not an upside down thing. It's the point is at the top. It's a 5-pointed star, and this pentangle symbolizes it symbolizes all sorts of things. Okay, but one thing it does is it symbolizes the virtues to which Gawain should aspire. Okay, and those 5 knightly virtues are listed in the poem. They are generosity, courtesy, chastity, chivalry, and piety. And I think that in the first 10 minutes of the movie, you can see that Gawain essentially has none of those. He's not particularly generous. He's not particularly courteous or chaste. He is not chivalrous, and he's certainly not pious. And So if he's going to be a knight, he's got to get these things, and these kind of symbols are hanging around him the whole time. And that's, I don't know, that makes the movie fun for me, I guess, is that those things are in there. So Gawain has been the hero. He's going to have to go out and go see the Green Knight. Essel, meanwhile, the lady friend of his, she tries to keep him from going. All right, it's interesting who she is, because she's better than Gawain. She's a better person than Gawain, but not by much. And what's interesting is she is willing to sacrifice his greatness. She's willing to say, don't go. They have a conversation. She says, are you really going to go? He says, should I? She says, I like your head better where it is, attached to his neck, obviously. And he says, I gave my word. I made a covenant. She says, this is how silly men perish. Gawain says, or how brave men become great. And she replies with, why greatness? Why is goodness not enough? And that to me sounds like that Rocky line from back when we talked about Rocky a couple weeks or months ago, about how you could have been great, but he's making a living. But it's not about making a living. It's not about just living. It's not about being good enough. And what's interesting is Essel's better than Gawain, but she's still not good. She's not helping him get better. So she's looking to improve her station. She's a common woman, right? And she's stuck in this position. She cares for him, but he does not love her, and she does not love him. I mean, certainly not in the Aquinas sense of willing each other's highest good. They both see that she's a benefit to him physically. He is a benefit to her stationally. She wants to be his lady. She wants to be out of living with the animals, and she wants to live in the castle. She wants to be his queen because she knows he will be king. So there's this societal issue at play with them being in different classes. But there's also the issue that both of them are really selfish. They are just using each other to get what they want, and neither one is very mature. And she asks, why is goodness not enough? But he's not even good yet. He's a slacker. He hasn't achieved anything. He chopped this guy's head off when he put his head on the block. There was no sword play involved. He didn't even have his own sword. He doesn't have any of these 5 virtues. So he departs. But as I watched the movie and I read the story, I realized, you know what Gawain really needs, other than an axe and a fox and a horse. He really needs a smoothie machine. All right. And the best smoothie machine out there is definitely the BlendJet 2. The BlendJet 2 is portable, so you can blend up a smoothie at work, protein shake at the gym, or even a margarita on the beach. It's small enough to fit in a cup holder, but powerful enough to blast through tough ingredients like ice and frozen fruit with ease. BlendJet 2 is whisper quiet, so you can make your morning smoothie without waking up the whole house. It lasts for 15 or more blends and recharges quickly via USB-C. And best of all, BlendJet 2 cleans itself. Just blend water with a drop of soap and you are good to go. And there's a zillion colors. So if you are a Green Knight and you want one to match your uniform, you can get one. And they have other colors too. If you are like some sort of like very noble guy, you can get one in white, and that would be kind of neat. And if you want leopard spots, I think they have those too. So the question's got to be, what are you waiting for? Go to the link in the description for blendjet.com below and grab yours today. Be sure to use the promo code bufnagle and get 12% off your order and free 2-day shipping. No other portable blender on the market comes close to the quality, power, and innovation of BlendJet 2. They guarantee you will love it or your money back. Blend anytime, anywhere with BlendJet 2 portable blender. Go to the link in the description below for blendjet.com and use the promo code bufnagle to get 12% off your order and free 2-day shipping. Shop today and get the best deal ever. So he departs. He gets on his horse and he starts riding north. He's got to ride 6 days north. And so, it's a journey. So he meets ruffians on the road. He's given a gift, right? He's given directions by this unstable fellow he meets, but he doesn't even grudgingly compensate the man for his help until the man asks. And he says, well, those directions should be worth something to you. And he kind of flippantly flips a coin in the man's direction, and that wasn't a good idea. All right, so he's with generosity was one of these things. He's not very generous. Right. This bad guy turns into with 2 of his helpers. They ambush Gawain. They steal all his stuff. They tie him up and they leave him for dead in the woods. And Gawain manages to get himself free. And so that's kind of the first thing he did that was any good, was he actually didn't let himself just die there, which the movie kind of says that he wants to, but he does actually get out. He finds his sword, and he cuts the ropes on his hands with the sword. And then he makes his way through. Now he's no horse. He's got nothing. And he makes his way through the woods, and he finds this abandoned house. And it was the house is occupied by the ghost of Saint Winifred. Now, Saint Winifred this is not in the poem, but it's in the movie. She was a 7th century martyr. Her mother was sister to Saint Bueno, and it turns out that she had a suitor who wanted to be with her, but she decided she was going to be a nun. So he got mad and he chopped her head off with a sword. And where her head fell, a spring popped up, but then Bueno came and he miraculously got her head and he reattached it to her body. And then he induced heaven to strike down the beheader guy. And then she went on to be a nun and an abbess and all sorts of things like that. So anyway, so he meets this lady who is Winifred, and it's based on this story of the 7th century martyr. And there's an interesting exchange at one point. She says to Gawain, "I need you to do something for me," and she leads him out to this spring where, she's a ghost, okay, and she leads him out to the spring, and she says, "I need you to go into the spring and find my head, because that's what chop it off." And Gawain says, "If I go in there and find it, what would you offer me in exchange?" So he like, what a schmuck, all right? I mean, she needs her head, dude. I mean, what do you? And she says, "Why would you ask me that? Why would you ever ask me that?" So she's kind of standing on this principle, like, what? Do you realize what I'm asking you to do? Why would you? You're going to hold? Doesn't basic generosity and compassion doesn't that compel you without reward? What kind of knight are you? Okay, so he sees everything still as a transaction, just like he always saw everything with Essel. And he's really far from being a knight. He has no virtue, he has no honor, he has none of the knightly virtues that we listed. No generosity, no courtesy, no chastity, no chivalry, no piety. He obviously has a lot of work to do, right? But he actually goes into the spring and he gets the skull out of there and he returns it to her corpse. And in response to that, she actually tells him some things about the Green Knight that he's seeking. So he's going along the way. He goes through the woods, he finds a little fox, and eventually he comes to a castle, which is occupied by 3 people: a lord, his lady, and a creepy and mysterious blindfolded woman, right? It's a medieval tale. It's got to have these creepy things in there. The Lord welcomes him as a friend, and he says, "I'll share everything in the castle with you." And the Lord knows where the green chapel is. That's where the Green Knight hangs out. And he says it's less than a day away, and it's just a few days before Christmas. So stay with us for a little bit, and then you can go up to the chapel. You can do the thing, and then you can come on back, and we'll have Christmas dinner or whatever. And he invites Gawain to stay there, with the promise that everything that the Lord of the house, everything that Lord acquires while hunting out of the woods, he's going to share with Gawain, under the condition that everything that Gawain gets in the house, he will share with the Lord. Which is a little bit kind of a creepy thing, because Gawain says, everything in the house is already yours. How am I going to share it with you? If I give it to me, I can just give it back. I didn't really understand that thing. So, of course, the issue is the lady in the house. Okay, and the lady is played by the same character who played Essel, or by the same actress that played Essel. And she is a temptress, all right? And she is a temptress for everything Gawain wants, all right? She is sultry, but she's also educated. She presents him all the things that can stray him from his knighthood. She represents his desire for technology. She has books, and she has a camera obscura that she uses to take a photograph of him. And she is learned, and she is a great companion, and she has great conversational skills, and she poses difficult questions to him, and she's always just teasing him physically too. So before Gawain left from the castle, his mother gave him this green sash, this like a magic girdle, right? I mentioned that before. And she said it would protect him from the troubles, but the ruffians took his sash. But now he's in the castle, and this lady says she has made a magic sash for Gawain, and it will protect him. And then in a very provocatively charged scene, she connives Gawain to admit his desire for her in exchange for getting the sash. So he gets the sash, and because he really, really wants it, because more than anything, he wants to protect that one thing of his that he has, which is his life. He will give anything to protect that. And so Gawain recognizes at this point that he's kind of been had, and he's got to get out, and he leaves, and he grabs the sash and a couple other belongings, like that big axe that he has, and he actually runs into the lord of the house in the woods, and the lord seems to know that there were shenanigans going on, but he leaves Gawain on his way. Okay, so spoiler alert, here they are. They get to the Green Castle, and the Green Knight is there, and he and Gawain prepares to receive his payback, right? But his job is to stand there and let his head get chopped off. That was the agreement. And the guy starts swinging the axe, the Green Knight starts swinging the axe, and Gawain flinches twice. He actually flinches. The first time the guy was like, "Hey, you moved. You can't move like that." He says, "Sorry, I'll move to it." And then he flinches the second time. And it's very interesting because they have these little conversations between these flinchings. Before the second time, the Green Knight says, "Are you ready?" And Gawain says, "Yes, I'm ready." And he says, "Then I shall get to the hacking." And Gawain says, wait. Is this really all there is? Meaning, this is all is everything just duty and honor? And the Green Knight says, "Well, what else should there be?" All right, as this is before the third attempt. And what happens at that point is Gawain receives a vision. He has this vision. It's very long in the film. It's several minutes long. It's a vision of what things would be like if he were to return to Camelot without fulfilling his agreement. Okay, that is, without his honor. If he were to come back with none of the knightly things he was supposed to achieve, in fact, and not even his honor, then he gets this vision. Okay, and he sees he would be a bad king. He would continue to live his unknightly ways, as his kingdom would corrode and dissolve, and he would lose everything he loves. And at the end, he realizes that the green sash that he has been wearing has kept him untouched as his world falls apart in his vision. Okay, and so he takes off the sash. This is the spoiler here. He takes off the sash at the end of this vision, and his head actually just falls off of his body, and everything that he has wanted has been completely lost. So he sees all this, and then it flashes back to him kneeling there before the Green Knight, with the knight planning the third attempt. And Gawain pauses, and he says, "Hold on just a second." He takes off the sash that has been protecting him, and the Green Knight prepares for the final strike as the credits roll. And there you go. That's the story. So you don't really know exactly what happened at the end, but there's some lessons. Okay, I guess you can assume that he's going to take what is due to him, or he's going to give what he is due, or what he's due to pay, regardless of the consequence. So he's going to do what is right, with consequences be damned, because it's the right thing. So, lessons. Gawain is not a knight. And part of the reason is that he is not being called to become who he was made to be. Right? His mother conjures up this Green Knight to allow him to get there. But then she gives him the magic sash, which doesn't really help him. Okay, the sash is a symbol of his desire to hold on to things of the world. And most notably, the thing in the world that he wants to hold on to mostly is his own life. He is selfish, he is self-centered, and he's looking to all things present and nothing eternal. He's not looking anything past what he has. Very early in the movie, one of the girls in the brothel asks him, "Hey, are you a knight yet?" And he says, "No, I got plenty of time. He says he wants honor, but he thinks that just a 6-day quest to visit the Green Knight is going to get him his honor. But he's been living unhonorably for, 25, 30 years. All right. And he wants the honor for himself so that he will be held in high regard. So he wants the right thing, but he wants it for the wrong reason. And you need to contrast that in the movie with the king, who seeks to serve the good of his family and his knights and his people. Now, Gawain knows he wants honor as the other knights have it, but he thinks he can just flip a switch and get it, and that's where he's wrong. The journey to meet the Green Knight reminds me of these other adult quests in other cultures, like if you have to go out in the desert and see the eagle and catch a eagle feather, or you have to go on like a mission and like our Mormon friends do, go on missions, or any of these things that step you out of where you are and get you into being a grown-up. This is a thing we need more of. We need more trips to the Green Knight, I think. But that's kind of what this reminds me of is these I guess I'll call it an adulting quest. Okay, so there's this element like we talk about in Rocky where a man must fight his dragon. Now Gawain has so many dragons that he has to fight. He has none of the right things. Um, and he's got to do it honestly. You have to fight the dragon on your own. You can't do it with help from mom with a magic green sash. All right. And the goal of beating the dragon is to become something that you were made to be, not just to put on the costume. Okay. So there was a lot of discussion about whether he could maybe fake it and make it look like he went there and he didn't, nobody knows whether he did it right or not. He could go say there, yes, I met the Green Knight and he told me I could come home and it's all good. He could have said that and there was nobody with him too. Just the cameraman. Cameraman never says anything like that. So, but it's interesting to me how this movie is different from the poem. Like I said, the version I have is by Armitage, and it is an interesting read. In the poem, there's no mom conjuring up the Green Knight. He just kind of appears, and the magic sash is made for Gawain actually by the lady in the castle. Okay, and the lord of the castle is revealed in the poem to actually be the Green Knight. They are one and the same person. All right, and after 2 flinches in the poem, the Green Knight barely nicks Gawain's neck on the 3rd time, and that pays Gawain's debt because he didn't flinch the 3rd time, and the knight missed, and the Green Knight, when he remarks on Gawain's response to and Gawain survives, and he's like, "Whoo, I made it!" The Green Knight says the following: "Be a mite less feisty, fearless young fellow. You've suffered no insulting or heinous incident beyond the game we agreed on in the court of your king. 1 strike was promised. Consider yourself well paid. From any lingering loyalties you are hereby released. Had I muttered all of my muscles into one mighty blow, I would have hit more harshly and done you great harm. But my first strike fooled you, a feint, no less, not fracturing your flesh, which was only fair, in keeping with the contract we declared in the first night. For with truthful behavior you honored my trust and gave up your gains as a good man should. Then I missed you once more, and this for the morning when you kissed my pretty wife, then kindly kissed me." So in the poem, they make the agreement that you have to, I'm going to give you whatever you give me, that kind of thing. In the poem, the lady is really, really after him, even more than in the book, or in the poem, even more than in the movie. "So twice you were truthful, therefore twice I left no scar. The person who repays will live to feel no fear. The 3rd time, though, you strayed and felt my blade, therefore. Because the belt you are bound with belongs to me. It was woven by my wife, so I know it very well. And I know of your curtsies and conduct and kisses and the wooing of my wife, for it was all my work. I sent her to test you, and in truth it turns out you are by far the most faultless fellow on earth. As a pearl is more prized than a pea which is white, in good faith, so is Gawain among the gallant knights. But a little thing more, it was loyalty you lacked, not because you're wicked or a womanizer or worse, but you loved your own life, so I blame you less." Gawain stood speechless for what seemed a great while, so shocked and ashamed that he shuddered inside. The fire of his blood brought flames to his face, and he shrank out of shame at what the other had said. Then he tried to talk, and finding his tongue, said, "A curse upon cowardice and covetousness. They breed villainy and vice and destroy all virtue." Then he grabbed the girdle and ungathered its knot and flung it in fury at the man before him. "My downfall and undoing, let the devil take it. Dread of death blow and cowardly doubts meant I gave in to greed, and in doing so forgot the freedom and fidelity every knight knows to follow. I am now found to be flawed and false. Through treachery and untruth, I have totally failed," said Gawain. "Such terrible mistakes, and I shall bear the blame. But tell me what it takes to clear my clouded name." The Green Lord laughed and leniently replied, "The harm which you caused me is wholly healed. By confessing your failings, you are free from fault, and have openly paid penance at the point of my axe. I declare you purged, as polished and pure as the day you were born, without blemish or blame. And this gold-hemmed girdle I present as a gift, which is green like my gown. It's yours, Sir Gawain, a reminder of our meetings when you mix and mingle with princes and kings, and this keepsake will be proof to all chivalrous knights of your challenge in this chapel. So in the poem, Gawain realizes that the thing that kept him safe was the thing that caused his treachery, the thing that made him disloyal to the Lord. And he wants rid of this girdle, the thing that binds him, right? He wants to get rid of that. So he gives it back to the Lord, who is the Green Knight. And he says, no. This is the thing. You should keep this as proof you were chivalrous. But Gawain continues. But the girdle, he went on, God bless you for this gift, and I shall wear it with good will, but not for its gold, nor its silks and streamers, not for the sake of its wonderful workmanship or even its worth, but as a sign of my sin, and I'll see it as such when I swagger in the saddle. A sad reminder of the frailty of his flesh is man's biggest fault, how the touch of filth taints his tender frame. So when praise of my prowess in arms swells my pride, one look at this Lovelace will lessen my ardor. He's going to keep that as a way to keep him humble, and he's going to continue to have it with him, not because of any protective powers it has, but because it will allow him to see when he is faulting, when he is failing, and that's going to be a reminder to not be that guy, okay, not to be the Gawain of old. And in the poem, the Gawain is a much better man than he is in the movie. But in the movie, that's it's easier to write a flawed character getting better than it is a good character getting great. So Gawain goes back home, and he arrives back at Camelot. The king kissed his knight, and so did the queen, and Gawain was embraced by his band of brothers, who made eager inquiries, and he answered them all with the tale of his trials and tribulations, and the challenge at the chapel, and the great green chap, and the love of the lady which led to the belt. And he showed them the scar on the side of his neck, confirming his breach of faith like a badge of blame. He grimaced with disgrace, and he writhed in rage and pain. Blood flowed toward his face, and he showed his smarting shame. Regard, said Gawain, as he held up the girdle, the symbol of sin for which my neck bears the scar, a sign of my fault and offense and failure, of cowardice and covetousness I came to commit. I was tainted by untruth. This its token I will drape across my chest till the day that I die. For man's crimes can be covered, but never made clean. Once sin is entwined, it is attached for all time. The king gave comfort, then the whole of the court allow, as they laugh in lovely accord, that the lords and the ladies who belong to the table, every knight in the brotherhood, should wear such a belt, a bright green belt worn obliquely to the body, crosswise like a sash, for the sake of this man. So the slanting green stripe was adopted as their sign, and each knight who held it was honored ever after. As all the best books on romance remind us, an adventure which happened in Arthur's era, as chronicles of this country have stated clearly. So the green sash is a thing that the knights wear, right? And it goes back to this story. It comes from this guy who wrote down the Sir Gawain and the Green Knight back a zillion years ago. And they still wear that. That's a symbol to say, look, don't, you're a sinful, don't let that get to you. All right. Everybody's got to pull everybody up and get through that. So it's a symbol not to get too haughty, because you can all fall. All knights should wear the green sash. So anyway, that's the Green Knight. I've enjoyed this quite a bit, reading the poem and watching the movie. I thought it was better the second time. When I watched it the first time, like I said, it was hard to understand, and I did it the second time with the voiceitizer, and it was great. The Amazon Prime thing was $4. It is rated R to the due to the sultry maiden, I guess, and there's some stuff that's in there that's not suitable for kids. So the story could be told without that, but I think it would leave out a lot of the temptations that are real. Also, there's some beheadings and some death-related things, like the skull in the pond is kind of creepy, and so better safe than sorry for your kids. You guys may not want to watch it before you let them do that. A lot of the reviews were bimodal, or the reviews were bimodal, so a lot of them were 5s and a lot of them were 1s. I think if people liked the mythology and the symbolism, they thought it was great. If they thought it was just that it wasn't enough of that it wasn't enough Fast and Furious, then it got a 1. Okay, so I liked it. I'll give it. You want to here's my review. I'll give it 4 stars. Okay, it's a little slow in places, but I think it's very fun if you're looking for symbols and nuance and lessons and virtue, and that's what we do here on the Buff. So that's why it fits right in. I'll get, like I said, 4 stars, but a bonus smiley star for tying things to grand stories. Okay, it's based on a poem. So anyway, that is the Sir Gawain and the Green Knight. The poem, translated by Simon Armitage, and the movie starring Dev Patel. Great fun for all, and unless it's kids, don't keep the kids away. So anyway, that's it. I hope you all continue to have a great time, and remember to seek the good, like Sir Gawain. Seek the good, be the good, and spread the good, and enjoy the adventure of life.